Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the third episode now of Simply Mastering. Today we have a mix by Faith Holt called August 1st, and this one is a different direction, I'd say, from the last two videos where we just had some really heavy industrial stuff. This is much more reserved indie singer-songwriter type of genre. And so what I'd like to do first of all here is go through and explain what I've got set up for this process today. And then we'll go ahead and get started. First, we've got Slick EQ again, and I am using the free demo, so I'm going to get this banner. Again, I would recommend taking screenshots of your settings if you're using this, because it will forget them. Every time you reload this plugin, or close your session and reopen your session, it will look exactly like this. It will have defaulted to 0 or to null, all zeros. Second in the chain, we have a new equalizer that I just found and I really like it. I'm gonna use it very sparingly here, but it definitely should help in a little bit of coloration. Maybe it's got a really high, or a sweet high shelf. So that'll be pretty nice for us as well. It's called Lufticus by IKJB. I had never heard of it before, and I found it yesterday, and I was playing around with it this morning, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. We should use this. So let me explain a few things about it. It's fixed bands. We don't have control over where the bands are, so that limits us. I probably will end up using this one, maybe the high shelf today. I've listened to this mix a couple of times, so I know about what I'm going to do, just to make the video fit within a half an hour. Might also use a little bit of 160, but for now, we've got 3 buttons down here at the bottom. Keep gain is unity, so whatever changes I make here, if I lift this up or lower it or whatever, any of these, this will keep the output volume level. It'll keep it the same. So the next one, yeah, we're just going to leave that off. The next one over here is analog. Turning this on will add a little bit of warmth to the track, which may or may not help us. And then it has a mastering mode. And what this does is it limits our movements to 1 decibel steps, which I'm not quite sure I understand. I mean, I get that it's not necessarily about, nitpicking over the tiniest little details, and this kind of forces us to, either make the decision or don't make it, essentially. So, I don't know. Today, I might just leave it in normal mode so that I can, do a half dB or whatever if I feel like it. I might end up using a little bit of this band here. We'll see. Next we have MJUC Junior, which is our first compressor. Our second compressor is the pink Decam Free Comp from FXpansion. And then finally we have the Limiter 6. And again, this is its default state. What I want to make sure I do with Limiter 6 here is set the output ceiling to -2/10, and just make sure that that is set, and go ahead and flick this up just to prepare the limiter for what we're going to do with it today. Next we have the VU meter that's built, or not built in, but it's a Studio One Presonus plugin, set to a scale of 6 and a sensitivity all the way down. Next up we have the VU-MT, which is, it's about a $10 VU meter. It's probably one of the better ones you can get. And I've got this calibrated to -10. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to play through the mix, and what I encourage you to do at home is to go through this yourself. Just listen to the mix. Pay attention to the dynamics and the equalization, and just get an overall feel for what the mix engineer was trying to achieve with this result, and also the mix in terms of the artist's concept and where it sits as presented to us here. so we can make some informed decisions about what needs to happen in the mastering process. Okay, so just make those notes, make those mental notes, and we'll get back to them in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and play this and get started.
And not watching fireworks from a parking garage with faraway friends on the 4th of July. And every time I can feel that way again. When they used to live inside of this town, and I'd pick them up just to drive around. Nowhere to go, just same songs over and over again. These are the times when now I see you were always there with me. Times, and now I know you're with me wherever I will go. At night she stayed up with me until 6 a.m. Sitting in the middle of a full wake, so scared of who I am. Had to talk it out, was putting off it like home. These are the times when and now I know you're with me wherever I will go. These are the times. These are the times I feel you. Almost strangers talking inside of this scene. 'Cause I was too terrified. These are the times go, just same songs over and over.
Well, okay, we've got a really nice mix here. I really don't think we're going to have to do too much to this at all, actually. One of the things I want to stress about this mix is that it's got a really nice dynamic to it. Really quiet sections, mixed with the more full, developed sections like this. Especially at the end, this area here, I mean, this section of the song is even more dense, and it's actually louder than these sections through here. And I want to make sure that I retain that dynamic to the track in the final master. So we're probably not going to push this too hard at all. And if we do, if the mix allows us, we can actually push it a little further. The snare and the kicks sound really strong, and I think they might hold up well. But that's something that we'll have to play with, and there's no way to figure that out unless we actually get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave these guys down here. We're going to start, as I always do, by adding the gain. That's going to be our final level. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And I'm only going to concern myself with the limiter section right here. And we'll just keep an eye on this meter over here, and we'll push it up until it gets to right about here, maybe the 1, 0. Oh, something I should definitely point out here is that maybe it's a good idea to do this to the louder section of the song. That way, as we work, especially over here, we will pretty much know that we're not overdoing anything because we've already set the level over here. So that is actually what I'm going to do. Okay, we'll leave it right around 7 here for now. This is pretty good in terms of overall level. I think this might end up being where we leave it. Let's go through the compressor section next. We'll just make sure we dial in a little bit, maybe about half a dB. Okay, that sounds like a good place to put it for now. Notice that I had to dial back on the gain here as I added compression, because this actually turns the volume up because we're pushing the signal up into the compressor. And I slowed the attack down so that I could preserve a little bit more of those transients. Got a ratio of about 1.3 to 1, just so it's very subtle. You know, we're not trying to kill it here. Okay, so let's leave him alone for now and go back and address the EQ, which is probably the most important part of this whole process. First thing I want to do with the slick here is turn off the EQ gain. And basically what that is it's very similar to this guy over here, keep gain. It's basically a unity switch. Whatever adjustments I make to any of these bands, with this turned on and with this turned on, the equalizers will output unity gain, so the gain won't change. I mean, in this case, that's not necessarily what I want, because I've already set the limiter and a little bit of compression to give me my final level. So I want to work within that, and I want to make sure that the changes I make are in the correct context. So let's go back to the beginning here and start to add in some equalization. I'll turn this on. I'm going to do one at a time. We'll do this guy first, and then we'll go over here to this one.
Fireworks from a parking garage with faraway friends on the 4th of July, and every time I can feel that way again. When they used to live inside of this town, and I'd pick them up just to drive around. used to live inside a
Okay, this is one of those situations where I can point out a little bit of a comparison. Both of these equalizers have a 10K shelf, and I kind of like where this shelf is sitting up at 10K. So what I want to do is just null this one back out, and we'll actually compare these two and see which one of them sounds better. What I would consider to be better is more open and clean, because we're not actually trying to add any color. So, you know what, we might end up not even playing with this at all. But I'm just going to go back and forth and compare, you know, boosting this one, boosting the other one. Just compare them and see where we end up.
night. She stayed up with me until 6 a.m. Sitting in the middle of a full wake. So scared of who I am. Had to talk it out. Was putting off my dreams. 'Cause I was too terrified for what tomorrow would bring. August 1st over coffee with two almost strangers. Talking about all of those records. It led to a place where I felt less alone. A feeling that felt like home. Night she stayed up with me until 6 a.m. Sitting in the middle of a full wake. So scared of who I am. Had to talk it out. Was putting off my dreams. 'Cause I was too terrified for what tomorrow would bring. August 1st over coffee with two almost strangers. Talking about all of those records. It led to a place where I felt less alone. A feeling that felt like home. Night she stayed up. These are the times I see. These are the times I feel you.
We can tell that this equalizer, the Slick EQM, this was specifically made for mastering because it's definitely a lot more subtle. I mean, you have to really push this way up there to be able to hear it. This one's nice. I mean, it's much more aggressive. I mean, you hear the effect, and it definitely gets crisper, I think. But what I would suggest doing is just on your own, just play back and forth between these two. I'm gonna leave this the way it is right now because at the moment I'm liking the way this one sounds. I may end up pulling this back down a little bit, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave this one off for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into compression. I'm going to do the same basic treatment I normally do with this, just to level off the tops a little bit, and that is to dial in just enough of this to bring about a 1 dB or so noticeable difference when bypassed. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually go over here this time to the loudest part of the song, because this is the part that's most important in terms of compression. I don't want to over compress this mix at all, so if I calibrate my compression to the louder section, all these other sections will just fill into place.
These are the times I see. These are the times I feel you. These are the times.
Okay, that's giving me a very subtle difference in volume. You can tell when I bypass the plugin that the volume changes very subtly, you know, but that's what we're looking for, just a little bit. The needle shouldn't even be moving, okay? When this is on slow, we basically want to find the sweet spot between where this starts to take effect, but before we register any actual gain reduction on this meter. which we actually are because of this. Next, I'm going to go in here and dial in a little bit of the bus compression just to see what it does. Now, something very interesting is happening here, and I think this is one of the key points you can take away from the compression process, is that I'm leveling this out, but I'm actually making sure that the compressed signal is actually a little bit quieter than the uncompressed signal is. And if you can do that and still make sure that the mix actually sounds better when it's quieter, then I think you're in a situation where you're really being successful. So I'm going to leave this where it is, actually keep it turned on, and move back into limiter 6 just to see where this is sitting. Okay, I think that is sitting pretty well. What I want to go back through and do one more time here is just check my EQ. I don't need the display anymore. Just wanted to make sure I could see about what I was doing. Not necessary though. So I'm going to go through this one more time and just make sure that everything I did here holds up. Okay, I really think this is in a good place. One last thing I want to do is point out these things down here. What this actually is a sort of a stereo enhancer function of this equalizer. And what I can do is selectively enhance or widen the stereo image, and very subtly, mind you, based on these bands and where they're sitting. Actually, I can open this back up and show you. As we play this, I'm going to gradually open up the top end. I might even turn this back on, leave him at 0, and just open up the top end a little bit more, just to give the mix a little bit more space or sense of 3D, depth.
Friends on the 4th of July, and every time I can feel that way again. When they used to live
All right, the EQ's in a good place. I like where that's sitting. I have retained the dynamic of the track. In other words, this section here is still louder than these other ones, which the mix came to me this way. I should leave it that way, right? So let me just go through and point that out.
The times I see was putting off my trip inside of this town, talking about the times I feel you. These are the times.
And we're retaining the dynamics here, okay? We can still feel the punch of the drums coming through, you know, even at this level of compression, which I would say is about as far as I'd go. You know, we're not all about level here. We're not all about volume. And I think unless you really have a handle on all of this stuff, then, you know, you can try to push it up, you know, maybe to -8, -7, even 6 or so, you know, if you want to try that. But I wouldn't recommend it, because I think at some point you're going to start destroying all the transient information in here and, you know, completely lose the impact of the mix, which is ultimately important. You know, we're not trying to change anything too drastically. We want to make sure that what we do is noticeable in terms of, you know, A, being the original mix to the master, but we want to be invisible to the point where it doesn't really sound like we've done anything. We're just enhancing what's already there. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close this session out and call this finished. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Shoot me a line, leave some comments down below the description. Keep in mind that all of the links to the plugins that I'm using are listed in the description. So if you don't have them yet, you can go and grab them. And with that, I'm going to close out. So we'll see you next time, and happy mastering.